It's your turn now, basically, to ask any questions that might have popped up. Hopefully you've got some really difficult ones for these two guys. I'll deal with the easy ones. That's usually the best way. But while you're thinking of some difficult questions, I thought maybe just to kick things off, one for you, Jean. And it was a point we discussed at lunchtime today. When you look on our website, you'll actually see there are 4 fairly clearly defined products or services that we provide. Actually, in practice, an assignment will be a combination of all of those things. It's never one specific product or one service. We do spend a lot of time preparing for an assignment, making sure that we get the right mix of those various aspects of the service together. A lot of them, though, a lot of the services that we define are based on sort of one-off initial evaluations. And then sort of tucked away at the end of the other services is the continuity program, the things that we do on an ongoing basis. I just wonder whether you'd like to comment on whether the balance of value is between having a one-off, effectively compliance check carried out and the ongoing series of exercises. You know, where does the real value come from those pieces of work?
Well, it's a fair question. I mean, clearly, if we were to have an intervention and we noticed that there were some areas of work, it would be nice to be able to be invited back to actually critique and audit whether sort of such things have been fixed, so to speak, earlier on. And I think once you've been and done the diagnosis, we have so much we can offer in terms of be one-to-one coaching, in terms of PEP for people. It'd be crazy to actually follow the services, given the fact that you've invested time in us and we have invested time in you. And it would make sense if we've done a full diagnosis at some point, that a year on, 18 months on, also that a subsequent diagnosis be carried out again, because then we can compare the beginning and end. Otherwise, it's a bit crazy, it's a bit silly. And also, Richard talked about entrepreneurs and what have you, and we all know this from experience. You do a piece of work and you give it to chairman or chief executive, and you get told, thanks very much, we'll take it from there, and you know damn well that not much is going to happen, and it will be very cosmetic. And at least the thought of us coming back, if nothing else, keeps the board alert that we are due back in 6 months' time, like auditors pretty much. We're due back in 12 months' time, we best come do something about this, if nothing else.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just follow that up?
Please do, yeah.
I was going to ask you, who's the client? Because if you've got to go in as a governance point, okay, then the company has to employ you, but you're talking about private companies and partnerships. Turkey's voting for Christmas.
Yeah.
So who would you think will be the client?
Well, that's a good question. I suppose somebody's always there as the sponsor, the initiator. I've done work in quite large partnerships who said, look, you know, we need to perhaps borrow some experience from the growth of KPMG and the work we've done in that sort of area. The partners sort of need to sign up. What often you find, though, Richard, is you are a catalyst for an immense amount of interest, goodwill, bright ideas, and you just open the floodgates. But you reveal the issues. You know, look, frankly, we don't think we're going in the right direction. We don't have the ability to sway the executive board that's been elected up or is self-perpetuating. So, you know, at the end of the day, you know, I suppose you would say it's good as someone to sort of acknowledge there's an issue, and sometimes they sort of let a bit of something out the bag, and you know, who knows what's going to happen with that.
So I could imagine a brand new appointed non-exec might be.
For example,
Yeah, they're often a great catalyst for these sort of things happening. The one thing I suppose I would really like to capitalise on, I think, is the point that, you know, I've never seen a business exit or for good value or be over time profitable on a sustainable basis, you know, without attention being paid to the quality of the people on the management team, and I'm sure that resonates with you too. And in particular, you know, if there's an end game, which is to either create value from here to here or to exit, these things just don't happen, you know, overnight. So, you know, whether you need periodic review, why would I say that's a good idea? But I think, you know, there's a process which is nothing's going to happen overnight. You can't just change the whole of the structure. You can't transition a business from the culture of the owner-manager to a business that can survive without it, just necessarily by bringing in a new, managing director. He's got, so well, maybe that is the answer, but it isn't all just that. It takes time.
Great opportunity for partnership long term.
Well, indeed.
Thank you.
I think so just to add to that point finally as well, I do think, we'd like to think that we can make or demonstrate a case where we can generate real value for a business. I think often, we'll be invited in just to carry out a pure regulatory compliance job, and maybe the chief exec or the chairman will be happy for us to go in and just do that, and probably won't have too much buy-in to the process sort of initially. But I think if we can go in and demonstrate, actually by getting your board to perform well, actually the company will perform well as well, then I think you get a broader audience then, and people will start to support the process to a greater extent.
But I mean, there is a bit of letting go from the top man for sure, but there's not many companies now that don't have some sort of internal sort of assessment of what the staff think about life, what the customers think about life, they being the ultimate arbiters of your success. And I found in my role as non-executive of a company, as a non-executive director, you become an absolute sort of magnet for what sometimes the entrepreneur that said, I need a non-exec, sees as dissent and a collecting point. And it's tricky. You go to a board meeting and, people say, I'll give you a buzz in the morning. I didn't say what I wanted to say in the board meeting. Well, they're missing one important trick. There ain't two-tier boards in the UK. They're all unitary boards, and you've got to create the culture where they can feel able to speak. And they just dump back, he's no good, he said this. And you've just got to distill this into some pragmatic plan that sort of gets everyone, it's a bit of honest breaking front, it sort of buys their way, through. So I've seen absolute, the situation I mentioned, chairman, chief exec, Pousson be getting on okay, but daggers drawn. I've seen totally dysfunctional teams, just not on board with each other, and you have to go through some quite radical change. Other times it is just somebody, there's very little that needs to emerge, because actually it's just the guys just trying to health check a successful business, and there may be a few sort of wrinkles here and there, concern about whether people understand risk, issues over reputational risk, all these things that's need a bit of focus. There's always something, I'm afraid. It's like when the VAT man comes to check, he always finds something you've done wrong. But we're not looking for that. We're just looking to give some pragmatic advice so that companies moving in the right direction.
Well, is this going to be, will AIM companies have to do this?
In due course.
In the next few couple of years?
Premium listing only, main board only. But having said that, there's strong evidence of AIM companies taking it on board.
There's already a conversation going on, but it won't happen. The current government in particular won't legislate this applies to private companies. They just want to encourage people to say, look, this is what. I mean, the public company model's a bit damaged, you shouldn't just look to them for success, let's face it, but they think the regulatory process that's been developed around them, is they'd like people to emulate. I don't think we'll put it in the Companies Act, but I think everything that is listed in any shape or form is a public offering type listing. Anything that, probably in due course has serious bank funding. They were saying to the banks, you've got to impose this, and we want you to impose it on your customer base. And the investment community, like venture capitalists and the like, do over time sort of look for best practice to be within their investments. They do this sort of program obviously on acquisition, but frankly never weighted as strongly as I always felt it should be. They'll put in lawyers, environmental people, the whole lot. They'll check whether the fixed assets are owned, they'll check this, that, the other. The market assessment and the people assessment are, in my view, consistently underweight. But over time, in fairness, that is changing. So, Vince Cable has indicated that if somebody came up with a way that this would work for private companies, he would be keen to support that, but they won't legislate.
Sorry, Paul?
Richard, do you see this as initially being an assignment-based service that then evolves into perhaps a retainer-based involvement?
Yes, I think so. But I think in that, you know, I don't think anyone's going to rush suddenly and say, right, we'll sign you up. And why should they? Because I think we're going to show we've added some value for them.
When I said assignment, I was thinking of a particular problem.
Yeah.
Come in and sort
I beg your pardon. Yes, I do. I think you need a trigger, which is owner decided to exit when the cycle's right. Therefore, I would like somebody. You know, you get corporate finance advice, which is the M&A bit. I used to do that, of selling it. But what I would like is some support all the way through on my side on that process before I engage someone, you know, to actually sort of get on and sell it. So it's like painting the house before you get the estate agent and that type of thing. I think a new chairman, a couple of non-execs saying we're not happy, you know, with this. And the non-exec's very powerful. I mean, it didn't take many non-execs at Tesco's and Sainsbury's saying why we're still buying plastic bags for it to have a real big knock-on effect straight through into our business. We decided to give you a packaging to exit. So, you know, the non-exec's going to be a catalyst. An event like a fundraising.
Sorry, I was just going to say one comment, one question really. The comment is about private companies, which I agree with you. I think you need a trigger point, because my experience of corporate governance in larger private companies is they will take what they want from the menu of choices to fit in with the entrepreneur's way of dealing. And it's a far longer term process unless there is a sale, unless there is a fundraising which you are deliberately presenting the company for. So that was my comment. My question is, in your process of evaluating the board, you go through and you say, you identify the need for a non-exec director on that board. Do you run a database of non-execs who you would put in there, or would you at this point say, these are the skill set we've identified that's missing on the board?
Well, we would offer to help the non-exec, find a non-exec, and we have a long list of the non-execs that we know that are competent. I think there's an interesting issue that, particularly in the public company arena, there is a potential conflict, which is you wouldn't want anyone thinking that when you're doing your independent review, any recommendations might, you know, lead on to further work.
Yes.
Or indeed there is, you know, a theoretical issue, which is could you do a corporate governance review on the board where you'd help recruit people? This is a bit like, can auditors do consultancy? The trouble is, you know, honest people with integrity, and we're sensible, the clients are sensible, and they rarely solve the theoretical sort of conflicts. And I'll be honest with you, there ain't enough money made to engage in recruiting non-execs, because typically no one wants to pay a big fat fee for a part-time director for it to in any way influence you. It's the right answer. Okay. You put a group of, you know, maybe, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 people in front of them and say, you know, we recommend these people, but it's up to you to get the chemistry right.
Okay.
Okay.
I would add to that, I mean, I think it's important to say that they would be two completely independent transactions or assignments. BEL is completely independent of Active. Whilst we can offer the service, would be a completely different arrangement.
Okay.